Hi, welcome to Hollywood Talks. I am your host, Bel Hernandez Castillo, and I'm very excited for our show to begin. We have a very special episode. We're going to be speaking to Marissa Díaz. She is one of McDonald's Spotlight Dorado's Emergent Filmmaker winners. Today we get to talk to her about the experience, and we're also going to speak to one of her actors in the short film. His name is Noah Santiago Duarte. Let's get going. Noah Santiago Duarte, one of the actors in your piece, and also welcome Marissa Diaz. She is the director and the writer, and I think you wore other hats. So welcome to Hollywood Talks.
Thank you for having us. So excited to be here with you.
Of course. And first, let's start off with a little bit of your background, Marissa. Where did you grow up, and how did you get into filmmaking?
Yeah, so I'm originally from San Antonio, Texas, and I went to film school in New York, and then later got my master's in producing at USC, and have been making films ever since as a producer, and now more as a writer and director. And I had the opportunity to apply for this amazing short film program, and I luckily was selected as one of the 3 finalists, and that's how Noah and I met, and we were able to make a film together this past summer.
The film is called Fancy Florez Summer Staycation.
This is 10-year-old Fancy Florez. It's the first day of summer, and to Fancy, summer is serious business.
A pool all to myself. This summer will be the greatest vacation of all.
This initiative, the McDonald's Spotlight Dorado, gives the filmmakers an opportunity to go from A to Z, right? It starts with the script. Tell us the process.
Yeah, so the process, I believe, started back in April of 2023. And, I saw this listing through a friend who told me about it and said, there's this amazing Latino filmmaking program. You're a Latina filmmaker. I think you'd be perfect for me for this situation. And I said, oh, that's great. The deadline's in 2 weeks, so I need to figure it out. So very quickly, I had to write a short film, put a team together, and get all of my development materials together, which included a script, which included a deck, all of my crew, department heads. And then from there, I just sort of interviewed several different rounds, submitted many different rounds of development materials, and then came in, and it was revealed that I was one of the finalists.
No words. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for having me. This is wonderful.
This is the process that filmmakers go through. They have to pitch first to the studio. Well, first of all, they have to write the script, then they pitch, and then they cast, and then they shoot, and then they do a post-production. So all of that is included in this program, correct?
Absolutely. So, it starts with the development materials of pitching what my short would be. So it started, me writing an outline or a treatment of what it would be, later moving on to the script, pitching it online in all of my interviews, and sort of expressing to people why I should be the person who moves forward in the process. And later on, they sort of, helped me, connect me to mentors who helped with the ideas of, how are we going to shoot this? How are we going to get someone like Noah on set? How are we going to get the right cast in place? How are we going to have production designers on set? And then also our post team, who are the best people to work with there. And then in the post process, we also received notes from our mentors. So really from A to Z, the entire process was what normally happens in a filmmaking process at the studio level.
And we'll talk about the mentors because they're very high profile mentors, but I wanted to also start talking about the story. So Noah is one of the leads, and the main lead is a little girl who is someone that I think a lot of little girls could identify with, but she had some gumption. So tell us about where that idea for this story came from, because it's a really cute story. I kind of thought, is that coming from her? Because it is called Fancy Florez's Summer Staycation. So it's about her. So tell us, where did the idea come from?
Yeah, so Fancy was definitely inspired by my childhood in Texas. So many times it's hot, super hot in Texas. So all I ever wanted as a kid was wanting a place to, be able to cool off in the summertime, use the pool, and have a great time with my friends. Unfortunately, I was in a place where I was in a public pool setting where I would get lots of nasty comments from, mean kids at the pool who would have comments about my body or how brown my skin was. And, I had this thought of like, what would it be like if I were able to go back in time and be the 10-year-old that has all of the confidence in the world to, stand up to her bullies and have a fun summer. And so that was really the inspiration for this film. And Skylar K. Esquivel, who is the lovely actress who plays Fancy, really brought that to life.
And now let's talk about Noah's part. So describe your part, Noah. What is it when you auditioned? What did you see in this role, and how did you get the role? I mean, how did you interpret the role?
So the role is Alex Campos, of course, and he is the person who does not like anyone to be better than him, and he's not confident in his body. That points out, and he just wants, he's a bully, and sorry about that. And Fancy does not like that from him. And what I really got from him is that I sometimes, I'm a trouble and do travesuras, but it was really good, doing his character, getting to do all these stuff, because in real life in my house that wouldn't fly. But of course, it was amazing just meeting all these people. But his character is not the one where it'd be nice at the end they all reunite and end up being friends.
So basically, you're not a bully, but you had to play one, and that's what an actor does. And so tell us, how long was the shoot, Marissa? How long was the shoot, and what was the hardest part about the shoot?
So the shoot was only 2 days in the middle of August, and we had the opportunity to shoot in Tarzana, California in the dead of summer. So it was, I want to say, over 107 degrees that weekend. So we worked really hard. We were outside. I think that might have been the thing that was most difficult. Poor Noah and Skylar were walking around outside of the pool because they had to be barefoot because they were supposed to be swimming. And the concrete was so hot that it was burning their feet. So we had a bunch of ice that we were throwing on the ground, that would melt immediately and evaporate into the air. So there was a lot of that in between takes that, no one would have expected. So that was definitely difficult, especially because in working with children, your hours are much shorter. So we had a lot to do, a lot to accomplish. We had 60 shots to accomplish over the course of 2 days, and we did it. It's no small feat, but I think the heat really did take some time away from us. So maybe that was the most difficult part.
Well, at least it wasn't freezing cold and you had to pretend it was summer. So
that would have been horrible.
It was so hot that day.
Tell us about your fancy. How many fancies did you look at before you decided on your actress?
There were actually a lot of fancies that we looked at. It's so interesting. There are so many, and being in LA, there's so much fabulous talent and of course, fabulous child actors. But something that came up in the process of trying to develop this and, interviewing to get this finalist spot was sort of like, who is the person that's going to play Fancy? She's a very confident person. She's very self-assured, and that's hard to find in a 10-year-old. But I was determined to find her. We had this Victor work with us, who's our casting director, who was fabulous, and put out the casting call, and we looked through probably hundreds of videos to find the perfect Fancy, and we were so lucky to find someone who's also Tejana like me, and Skylar and her mother happened to be in LA trying to get her acting career going. And they were like, this is the first thing that we've seen. It seems like right up Skylar's alley. Let's just submit ourselves and see how it goes. So this film was her first audition, and of course she booked it right away. But it took us a while to find her, and we were so lucky to have had her. She was the perfect Fancy and exactly what I imagined in my mind.
And you got two great little actors. They really make the story shine. And the script is wonderful as well. So it's a fantastic that you found them. And you don't always get the right person, but in this case you did. So tell us about you have experience, Noah. So you already have how many movies or TV shows do you have under your belt?
So Fancy was my first one, and thanks to that, telling a story about the stories that we need to tell for our culture. And now because of that, I'm getting we're currently on a film called What to Expect, and we're currently filming it. And this all came from my acting from Fancy. So so I work. So it all leads up to if you work hard and you get rewarded later.
Mm-hmm.
You know that.
And just
Go ahead.
I just want to say hats off to Noah and all of his, acting abilities, because though we had a lot of submissions for Fancy, we didn't have as many that made sense for Alex Campos, who is Noah's character. And, we were really racking our brains, like, what are we going to do? I have this vision for who Alex is, and we just can't find him. Like, where is he? And Victor and Noah's cousin happened to be friends, and they were working on another project together. And, Victor filled her in, Liza, on what was going on in the background. We were having such a hard time finding Alex, and he kind of gave her some background. And after doing that, Liza was like, I have the perfect person. It is my cousin. He's an LA boy. He's totally an Alex Campos. He is an actor, and he is also an athlete. He's an A student, so he's really he's going to knock this out of the park. And sure enough, I think it was the next day we sent over sides that night, and the next day he auditioned for us, totally blew us away. He had props ready. He even had a little ad lib ready for us, which actually made it into the film. So he's been so inspirational to me, and also it's just been a joy working with him this past year. But I just wanted to tell you that fun story of how I met Noah.
Yes, and also Liza, she used to work with a casting director.
Amazing.
Yes, she did. I guess she has an eye for it. She developed an eye for doing, finding the right person. But also, Noah, you told us that you had somebody who has given you some acting advice, or have you gotten that? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I also want to thank Liza for everything she has done for me. And also, I was at Latina Fest with Liza, and they were interviewing Enrique, who plays Montana in Blood and Blood Out. And after he gave me a piece of advice to never give up. And as I just got audition and I didn't get it, but then I just met him up recently at the Blood and Blood Out weekend, and I was so excited to tell him everything that happened, as I got Fancy and the one I'm doing right now. And I just want to thank him for all the advice that he gave me that leads up to his day, and I never gave up. And look what I hear him now.
And that is so key. And this is what these projects are about. It's about introducing new talent, not only you as the filmmaker, but by extension, these two young little actors who did fantastic. So give us a little bit of an overview of the story.
Mm-hmm. So Fancy Florez Summer Staycation is a whimsical comedy that is inspired by, the aesthetics of Wes Anderson, but is ultimately about a young girl named Fancy Florez who's 10 years old and doesn't have many friends, and she doesn't have that much money, but she's determined to have the most fabulous summer of all. So she goes next door in her abandoned neighbor's pool and decides to clean it and make it her staycation for the summer. And unfortunately, her bully, puts a wrench in her plans. And so that's where things sort of speed off with Noah and Alex Campos, and things get a little hairy. But it ends in an amazing Mexican standoff. But ultimately, this project is really about being a young girl who has a voice and is self-assured and knows how to stand up for herself, and in the process makes lots of friends and changes the mind and hearts of others.
Tell me about the mentors, because the mentors are some of the top Latino talent, that is around. I mean, Al Madrigal, who's on Lopez versus Lopez. You have Anthony Ramos from In the Heights. You have actress Danae Garcia, director Carlos Lopez Estrada, and writer-director Nancy C. Mejia. Who was your mentor, or were there several mentors?
What is so fantastic about this program is that they were all my mentors at different, and there's even more that weren't even named in that list. But yes, we had such an incredible array of different producers, writers, actors, all sorts of talent that helped us from the beginning to the end. So all of them had a little bit of their fingerprints on Fancy, which is amazing. I think, someone like Danae was amazing because she gave great skip notes because she's talented. She's like, this Alex Campos character doesn't feel fully formed. We need to give him an identity of his own. We need to give him some backstory that makes more sense, that will intersect with the story that Fancy has. So that's a note that came from her. Lots of great notes from Anthony Ramos about the narration in the film. lots of punch ups from Al and Nancy. So truly across the board, these, all of the mentors were so fantastic, and I was lucky to have worked with them.
You were doing the workshop at Sundance, is that correct? Tell us about what the workshop was and when you were participating in the workshop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're so correct. One great thing begets another. So I've been so fortunate in this last year to have been in a few different programs. So first it was Spotlight Dorado with this amazing short film program. And then not long after, I found out that I was going to be a part of the Sundance Episodic Lab, which was incredible. That took place this past November at the Sundance Mountain Resort. And that was just an opportunity for a few of us writers to get together who were working on our pilot. Mine happens to be a comedy. It's a half-hour comedy called Cochinas, about two young girls who are the only Brown Scholarship girls in an all-white evangelical school in South Texas, and they're just trying to find their voice and their true identity in this community. So there, I workshopped my script, worked with a bunch of different mentors as well. I had a whole new cohort of filmmakers and writers who really inspired me, mentors, of course, there as well. And now I'm in this program called Right Back Rise, which is an accelerator for mid-career, writers, directors, producers of color, which is amazing. And I'm in the office right now working and writing along with a bunch of my other cohort members. It's a fabulous place to be. And I would say to other filmmakers who are trying to get their careers going, it's the sort of thing that people say of like, it takes 10 years, 15 years to be an overnight success. So I think it's about, keep hustling, keep applying to programs, and keep writing, and eventually it's going to work out for you.
Okay, everyone, remember, it's the McDonald Spotlight Dorados. They're supporting emerging filmmakers. They have given these 3 filmmakers money so that they can do a proof of concept. They can show their talent, and all 3 films are wonderful. I watched them all 3. Remember, go to spotlightdorado.com/vote. Voting ends February 11th at midnight, or right before midnight. So please go vote, support Latino filmmakers, support the stories. We're telling our own stories, and that is so important because our stories matter and we need to see ourselves represented. And here, Marissa Díaz and Noah have made a very special film that you will love. So go watch. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Marissa, for joining us. Thank you, Noah. Thank you, Liza, for the creative hookup here. And thanks so much for watching Hollywood Talks, and we'll see you next time.